Hey guys, Nick here. So, quick announcement for this video. This is going to focus on Shane specifically. With the other video, the last one, it focused on the group, and at the end, Shane made an appearance, if you guys didn't watch the last one. But this video is going to basically reverse that and focus on Shane specifically. So, without further ado, where has Shane been, and what will happen to him in this episode? This is part 11 to this awesome remake of What If Rick Spared Shane. Now, in the ending of the last episode, Shane met up with Dwight, Sherry, and Tina, but under different circumstances. This being proved whenever, after meeting them only for a second, a gun is raised to his back, and a figure tells him to drop his weapons and stand still. And today, we're going to find out who this mysterious person is, and the negative side effects to the group not going to the quarry line to fight the zombies, or, diverge them. Who is this figure? Tara. Because, like all my other stories, Tara's with the Saviors if she hadn't been recruited by the governor. It's just the way I think it would go. Now, because I mentioned the whole quarry line thing, because the group did not go out that way and Daryl never met Dwight, this means that the Saviors would catch up with Dwight, Sherry, and Tina much more successfully, which in turn means that this time whenever Shane met Dwight, Sherry, and Tina, it was under much different circumstances. It was a trap. So, whenever Tara's revealed, telling him to drop his weapons, Shane, obviously knowing a police situation or just a dangerous situation, drops his shotgun and then drops his favorite pistol. But Shane did this a little bit too easily, because knowing Shane, especially at this point in the story, even Tara knows that, considering how tough Shane looked, this was a little too easy, but she just ignores it. But when she goes to get his guns, Shane turns around and punches Tara straight in the face. I'm talking, this was a very hard punch, straight to the face, breaking part of her nose in the process, and slamming her to the ground. Not with his hand slamming, but from the punch, because Shane did not hold back here. And Tara especially knew that something was up, but she didn't expect that, and knows that this guy is not a pushover. But just because Shane did this doesn't mean that he won. Because, like I said, this is under much different circumstances. So Dwight already had the iron to his face, and yeah, he's the savior now. And like I said, this was a trap, because there was no way that Shane was going to get through this easily. And now, Dwight is the one who has the gun to Shane. And even though he could just punch Dwight again, or punch someone again, it would just be a repeating cycle, and Tara or Dwight could just shoot him. So this time, he stands down. After Tara gets up, she's quite angry at this, because not only did Shane attack in a, surrender situation, but that hurt. That punch really hurt, and she just wants to shoot him right now. And even though I feel that Tara would be in a much higher place in the Savior group, obviously, than Dwight, I feel that with Tara's anger right now, Dwight would have to calm her down as to not make her go crazy. Because he actually thinks that Negan would take a liking to Shane, and Shane could be very helpful to the Saviors, and this is kind of ironic. So, they ultimately decide to take Shane to Negan. And Shane actually wants to see the leader for himself, because if this whole band of saviors thing is real, then he wants to see this for himself. So, Dwight, Sherry, Tina, Tara, and Shane all go to the sanctuary, and Simon is the first face they see. And after Dwight and Tara mainly tell Simon about what was going on and who Shane is, Simon is actually a little bit surprised, especially after looking at Tara, because Tara would have a very bloody nose, sort of like Merle did, but much worse, because we all know how tough Shane was, and this would be a much tougher Shane. And actually sees a little bit of resemblance, not in facial features, but just with the attitude and just the way he presents himself. Simon sees a lot of similarity between himself and Shane, and ultimately he grants permission to go see Negan. Negan is sitting in his main room just thinking about what to do with all the other communities and all that, being the guy that he is, when Shane, Dwight, and Tara all walk in. Shane especially getting a first glance at the big man himself, Negan. Negan, after hearing about all what happened and seeing Tara, is actually quite impressed and sees Shane already as either a threat from another group or a very valuable soldier, and asks Shane to sit down and have a talk with him, and tells Dwight and Tara to leave, because Shane also just wants to have a conversation alone with him, because now he knows that everything that Dwight and Tara said was true. So, Shane and Negan have a discussion. Shane telling about his backstory, where he came from, what happened, and how he was kicked from the group once, and pretty much all that, his main group, and that the group that he was brought back to, and who he was kicked from again, is in a community called Alexandria. Shane also goes on to say things about Rick, and the other leaders of the group, Deanna, and what happened with Father Gabriel, the priest, and why, ultimately, the leader of the group, Rick, might be tough enough to kick him twice, but mostly all of the group is not tough enough to make true gut-feel decisions. And that's what ultimately led him to almost die, because Rick and everybody else was pushed to the point of having to make tough decisions because of Shane's influence. And this is true to a very immeasurable degree, and says that if they go to Alexandria, then it will be easy pickings. But in return, Shane will work for Negan, but he wants to be the second in command. Negan, after hearing this, is very impressed and just bewildered at Shane's attitude and the whole story. But he agrees to this, but he has to get past Simon first, because Simon is the right-hand man, and he can't just give that away. No way! Simon's been his right hand for who knows how long, so he has to beat Simon in a fight first, and then he will consider Shane's offer. Simon, after hearing this, actually wants to put Shane to the test, because even though he sees a lot of resemblance with Shane, he does still find him overly overconfident, if you guys know what I mean. But anyways, the two get into the room where Negan and Simon fought, where all the saviors get a first look at Shane, and the fight commences. Now, just to tell you guys, if this were Season 2 Shane, he would have a lot of trouble with Simon, I feel. But with this particular Shane, oh, it's not even close to a competition. Shane almost wipes the floor with Simon. Simon gets a few good hits in, but Shane holds his ground much more so. And afterwards, he stares directly at Negan and says that he thinks he's made his point, and that if he wants to make him a soldier, Shane will comply with this, but he wants to be the second in command now. He feels that he earned it by beating Simon within an inch of his life. And this would be very, very, like, in-depth. This would be an awesome scene. Negan, after this, is even more surprised because he didn't think that Simon would get his butt handed to him so immensely. But Negan did agree to his giving Shane the role, and as Negan said himself, he's a man of his word, even if he was crazy back in season 7 and 8, and, going on before that. And he ultimately agrees. Shane is now the right hand to the Saviors, and Negan also says that they're not going to go to Alexandria yet, because he doesn't do it that way. He sends men little by little, and then, if it becomes a true problem, then he attacks himself. Shane agrees to this, and is ultimately put in the role of right-hand man to Negan himself, putting Simon at a lower hand than before. He would be the third in command, or the left-hand man. And it would be a lot of switching around, but Shane earned it. Simon, after this, is ultimately angry. Like, as angry as we saw him in Season 8, because he just got his butt handed to him something fierce. And now, that role was just taken away from him, like it was nothing. But he ultimately doesn't do or say anything because, can't. Otherwise, he'll just get killed. So, ultimately, like Negan said, he sends out little Timmy and his brigade of merry men to go to Alexandria to pay them a visit, to see if what Shane has said is true. Meanwhile, the likes of Merle and Daryl head back to Alexandria after Ron almost kills Daryl and Merle throws Ron into a walker. But how will this go whenever little Timmy and his brigade hit Alexandria? And did Ron truly die from getting thrown? Or will this have major ramifications? That's where we leave things for the moment. I truly hope that you guys enjoyed this episode and the idea of Shane joining Negan, because I, for one, think that that's a much better thing than just keeping him with the group and possibly him being killed at the lineup. It just suits better for this remake especially. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and are enjoying the series so far, and stay tuned for the next one. See you guys later.